Good morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. This is Soldiers for the Cross, and I'm your host, Randy Jones. And today is October the 14th, Monday, October the 14th. And it is a typical fall day outside. We've got wind, a little bit of wind, a little bit of rain, overcast, leaves are falling everywhere. So if you're like me, you're not a leaf blower, the lawnmower will definitely run at least once or twice again before snow flies. So thank you so much for tuning in the last few weeks as we have went through the series Dream Big. This is authored by Brother Bob Goff. And this has just been an amazing series. Today concludes our final session in it. The session is called Dream Big, Land the Plane. So I hope that you have been blessed by this, and this has been very educational for me and uplifting. And I hope that it has shown all of us that you can dream big, but in dreaming big, go after it. Just go after it. You know, we can think of 1,000,001 reasons why we can stop pursuing our dreams that God has for us. Or we can think of the number one reason that He's given us, that He's called us, that we can pursue this and fulfill this dream. So, again, today is our final series in this, so I hope it's been a blessing to you. Switching gears for a second, I had a gentleman come in the shop the other day, and he inquired as to how would I donate to your ministry. And as I told him, and I want to bring this up for you, all funds for Soldiers for the Cross go through our church. These gift offerings, funds of any type, they are in our fund for Soldiers for the Cross ministry at our church. These go towards helping veterans with different scholarships to go to men's retreats. This funding also helps in certain cases of benevolence, where there is a need that needs to be met financially. So we try to support that. And it also goes to incorporating into veterans events that we put on at the church. This is all in a packaged ministry of helping those who have given so much back to our nation, to us as individuals, our freedoms, and to give back to them, bring them closer in to the family of Jesus Christ, and to help them build in the gospel. Now, I will bring this up real quick for you. This is our church website, Faith Assembly of God. We are located at 9800 South Cochran Avenue in Olivet, Michigan. The zip code there is 49076. And I would encourage, for validity of my ministry, Soldiers for the Cross, you could call 517-543-2719. Okay. Also, if you would like to send a gift for Soldiers for the Cross, you can make any payments to Faith Assembly of God. And again, the address is 9800 South Cochran Avenue in Olivet, Michigan. The zip code there again is 49076. And on your gift or monetary donation, you would put care of Soldiers for the Cross. That way, the church would know how to direct your gift. Now, staying on the website here, just to kind of show you a couple of upcoming events. If you're in the Marshall, Olivet, Bellevue, Albion areas, once a month, and this month will be October 20th, we have e-groups. E-groups are simply groups of people who get together. They do, sometimes it's series similar to what we've been doing here over the last few weeks. Also, it's sitting around There's food prepared and fellowship and just talking, basically getting to know each other and talking about God. Okay, I want to emphasize something here. You do not have to be a saved, born-again person to attend these groups. These groups are to help us as Christians understand, but to also help those who have not yet given their life to Christ, to help those understand the gospel, understand why Jesus Christ is such a necessity in our lives and why we need him and why he wants us. Okay, so passing that on to you. And also, we have our fall festival coming up, as you can see, November 3rd. That is always a great time. And you're probably wondering what that big red square that says BGMC might mean. That is the Boys and Girls Missionaries. What that entails is if you would like to visit the church or if you would like to give online, all the spare change that we build up in our pockets, our car consoles, the junk drawer at home, the dish on top of the dresser, that is all donated into what's called a little Buddy barrel. And this is Buddy the barrel, standing there grinning, flexing a little bit, I think. And this money, these children give this money. It's how we teach our children to contribute and tithe and to be compassionate towards the needs of others. And all this funding, every single dime of it, goes to missions. It can be in-country missions. It can be out-of-country missions. This helps purchase literature. This funding, believe it or not, through the Assembly of God churches, this funding has raised totals to purchase new vehicles for missionaries overseas, GPS systems for them to get to the areas they need to get to either help medically, always spiritually, and always spreading the gospel. But these missionaries do more than that. You know, as a former soldier in the military, and as many of you may know, if you were a frontline unit, you were up there facing the danger. And the rear echelon was back there supporting the front line to get the supplies they needed, to get the ammunition they needed, the weaponry they needed, sometimes the parts when the vehicles broke down. Missionaries are on the front lines of the gospel. They are in nations that most of us don't travel to or wouldn't travel to. The rear echelon of that is us, the churches, the givers, the tithers. That's the people that keep the wheels in motion in these missionary works. So E-Group is always once a month. The Fall Festival, I promise you, will be an amazing time. BGMC is the first Sunday of every month. So if you would like to send your child to church, we have a bus. Like I said, if you live Albion, all of that, Marshall, Bellevue, you know, we can get you there. Okay, so have no fear of that. November 17th, excuse me, is our Western Michigan Adult and Teen Challenge. We will be hosting this ministry, and it is always an amazing time, amazing testimony, and just blessed music. So if you have an opportunity to come out and see that, and on a personal note, I will tell you this. The Michigan Adult and Teen Challenge is a wonderful ministry. If you have someone in your family that you feel would benefit from this ministry, they reach those who have been alcohol addiction, drug addiction, possibly prostitution, that have had problems run in with law enforcement stuff, and you're like, hey, I want, before something just goes drastically wrong in this person's life, I need to get them into something that's really going to change their life. Please come out November 17th. Listen to this ministry. Listen to the testimony of those involved in this ministry. And if you don't do anything else, take some information home with you that you can study and maybe present to that loved one in need, okay? You won't regret it. And again, let's see, moving on. If you are 50 or over, hello, you like to hang out with folks, have a little dinner, have good conversation, and just, if you're a Christian, you like to fellowship among Christians. If you don't have a home church, you haven't accepted Christ yet, but you like to know a little bit more about him, come out and hang out with the Golden Nuggets. I will post the date. Currently, they're scheduling a Christmas lunch. So we will see what date and time. It has the time, 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. It's possible it could be December 1st. I will find out more about that and post it. And then our amazing Christmas concert every year. You do not want to miss this. Randy and Marley Ministries are just an amazing contribution to the gospel. Amazing singing, a little bit of comedy, but always to get the word out about the gospel. So this is our church, and you are so welcome there. If you do not have a home church, we are live on Facebook Live every Sunday. So if you cannot attend, but you still want to stay in the gospel, or you want to hear the gospel, then by all means, tune in every Sunday on Facebook Live to Faith Assembly of God, Olivet, Michigan. And you can watch live our pastor, Brother Todd McLean, presents the gospel as the Lord gives to him. We're not a dog and pony show. What you see is what you get. Church, for anyone who doesn't know or has never been told, church is for the broken, the not saved, those that are hurting, and those that are in need. If you walk into a church and you feel like you already have to be perfect to be there, I'm going to be honest with you, find a different church. That's the house of God, the house of worship. Jesus said, call all those unto me. He didn't say go out and cherry pick the perfect and bring them in. He didn't say go out and get those who can tithe very heavily and bring them in. So come as you are and leave a better person each time. You will build on that relationship with Christ. So that's our church. And again, like I said, if you want to give, you can go to Faith Assembly of God, Olivet.org. You can tithe. You can give to youth ministry. You can give Soldiers for the Cross. If you want to mail your gift donation for Soldiers for the Cross, again, Faith Assembly of God, Olivet, Michigan. That is 9800 South Cochran Road, Olivet, Michigan, 49076. And just please, if you could, put on it care of Soldiers for the Cross, so we'll know how to direct the monetary gift. All right. Thank you so much for that. And moving on with our final, I hate saying that, our final session in this series, Dream Big. Man, this has just been an amazing series. And like I said, I hope you've been blessed. Today's final session in this series is Land the Plane. I'm going to get over here to the introduction by Mr. Goff, and we're going to take off, and we're going to land this plane before we're done. Okay, Session 5, Land the Plane. Starts off with a quote by Brother Goff. Stop talking about what you want to do someday and just start to do something. Just do something. Follow through can be hard for all of us, but there comes a point in any endeavor when you've done all the research, all the envisioning, and all the path clearing, and just need to move forward. This study has attempted to help you answer life's three big questions. Who are you? Where are you? What do you want? Now it's time to act on your answers. It can be tempting to continue doing these activities that keep you flying high with excitement and fresh adrenaline. Planning, imagining, talking, speculating, and searching and finding, they're all vital parts of the process. Eventually, however, you have to make your ambitions concrete. You have to land that plane of ideas so that its passengers can take action. You might think landing a plane is simple, but there is actually an interval right before touchdown when it feels as if you're floating above the runway. As the pilot decelerates or cuts the engine, the plane hovers 10 to 15 feet in the air before its wheels hit the ground. This phenomenon is called ground effect. As the wind traveling past the underside of the wings pushes against the ground, creating a gentle or not so gentle lift from below. Putting your dreams in action often feels like experiencing ground effect. You're hovering along when suddenly, bam, you hit the ground. The impact is jarring, and the contents of your overhead compartments definitely may have shifted. In other words, getting started with real steps that force you to do something won't be easy, but it doesn't have to be smooth or perfect. It only has to get you on the road to taking action. Now, our Bible verse for the day that this session is taken from is found in Matthew 25, chapter 25, verses 31 through 45. The sheep and the goats. When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, he will sit on his glorious throne. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go visit you?" The king will reply, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." Then he will say to those on his left, "Depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you did not invite me in. I needed clothes, and you did not clothe me. I was sick and in prison, and you did not look after me." They will also answer, "Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty, or a stranger, or needing clothes, or sick or in prison, and did not help you?" He will reply, "Truly I tell you, Whatever you did not do for one of the least of these, you did not do for me. That is some very, very powerful words from our Savior, Jesus Christ. I don't know how you see things. I know the world today, we often get confused in how to help, when not to help. It seems everywhere you go, you're getting scammed. Years ago, you could pull off the side of the road, help someone broke down with no worry of anything happening or a setup in place. Today, many times we drive by them. And our conscience tells us that people in prison deserve to be there. They broke the law for whatever reason, and they done it to themselves. But when we start thinking like that, we're taking on the image of self-righteousness and dropping the image of Christ. So I really think that this wording explains to us exactly who Jesus was. Jesus did not go looking for the rich. He did not go looking for the powerful. He did not go looking for the status quo of who to hang out with. He went to the poor. He went to the meek. He went for the downtrodden. He went to the tax collectors, the sinners, those that were less than perfect. That's who he went to. That's who he ministered to. And that's what we're called as Christians to do. We're not called to pick and choose those who we give the gospel to. Great Commission, Matthew 23 says, go unto all the world. Not just to the nice, clean areas, the low crime areas. Do we use discernment? Yes. But we don't use our own decision on who we want to give the gospel to and who we want to withhold it from. That, my friend, is probably one of the greatest sins that you could commit. Withholding the gospel from someone just because of their status or who you think they are makes you no better than them. Because in your heart, it's not pure what your intentions are, and it's very clear to God that you're using self-righteousness instead of salvation to minister to others. So just wanted to put that out there. Before we get into our video, there's a couple questions that has been written here. One, what stands out to you about the criteria used here to separate the sheep from the goats? How does meeting the physical needs of others demonstrate God's love? I was just talking to you a while ago about missionaries. Missionaries, they give up everything they have here. They go into sometimes hostile areas, sometimes not so hostile areas. But they go as a calling that God put on their life. And because they know that calling is higher than any possession they could ever own back here, that's why they choose to follow it. Second question, why do you suppose feeding hungry people, showing hospitality to outsiders, and visiting those who are sick or in prison pleases God? That I want each of us to answer inside ourselves, inside of what we actually feel that we need to see happen with these people. And if your only thought is the person that is in the hospital with lung cancer, for example, well, they smoked all their life. They done it to themselves. Does that mean they're unworthy of God? Does that mean they're unworthy to hear the gospel? Person in prison, again. Oh, they broke the law. They put themselves there. They did it to themselves. That seems to be our response to everything. Does that mean that they're unworthy of God? That they don't deserve to hear the gospel and have an opportunity, as you and I did, to change our lives? You know, the Bible says, which one of us, if our child was in need and was hungry, would we say, well, you missed dinner, it's your own fault, here's a stone for you to eat? We wouldn't do that. It's all about compassion. It's all about presenting Jesus as he lives inside of us. If your only decision is they've done it to themselves, then that will be probably the same thing you'll hear when you stand before him. Let's be honest. You'll be on the left and he'll say, you done it to yourself. So let's change our way of thinking. Compassion, it's something you work through to achieve. I know this firsthand. It's not something you get overnight. But you have to work on it. You have to pray about it. And you have to talk to others about it to learn how to develop that. So those two questions I'm going to leave with you to, I guess, kind of ponder. And now, without any further ado, we are going to watch our last video in this session with Brother Goff. And this is entitled simply Land the Plane.
You guys, you did it. Way to go. This is our last session together. We have covered some ground over this thing. We started out with saying, what were your absurd expectations? What were some ambitions that you had? I hope you came up with a really long list, but I hope you vetted them. I hope you didn't compare them with other people's. I hope you compared them with your other ambitions to say, these are the ones that are actually going to last. These are among the ones that were actually Jesus talked about in Scripture. He said these are the ones that he was interested in us doing. Loving him, loving our neighbor, loving hungry people, thirsty people, sick people, strange people, naked people, people in jail, in James, widows and orphans, the fruits of the Spirit. You guys, if you're a list person, make your list. But if you're just a Jesus person that wants to make an impact, then don't just go around doing nice things, but to say, what's the return address on this thing? Why is it that I'm doing what I'm doing? And if you can find more than a foothold in Scripture, I'm telling you, it's going to give you some of the assurance that you want. Remember a long time ago, we talked about looking at the miracles that Jesus did, and not just the miracle, but what was happening around the miracle. Landing the plane is what we're going to talk about now, and it's going to take a load of authenticity to get there. It's going to take being vulnerable, hopefully with the people that are surrounding you in this group. And if you haven't gotten there, get there. Today's your day to talk about what's really going on in your life. I've been to Africa, I bet 20 or 25 times. I never take the malaria meds. I mean, like, what are the chances? You guys, I got malaria. Nearly killed me. It was awesome. I ended up in the ICU for 2 weeks. You know the great part about this? I lost 30 pounds. My next book isn't even going to have words, just going to have one mosquito with a virus. It'll bite you in the head, all gone. New York Times, 3P. But one of the things that I found after I got better from malaria is I got a bill. Do you know what? It cost more than my first 2 houses. And I could have avoided it with a nickel pill and half a glass of water. And some of the stuff that's wrapping you around the axle, some of the behaviors and activities that you're involved in that are screwing you up, you can avoid that easy. Stop having Bible studies about some of the things that you're doing. Just stop. Just like full stop. Skid marks. That's what it means to land the plane. To say, I'm not just going to dance around this thing. I'm not just going to find out more information. I'm going to start a couple things. I'm going to stop a couple things. That's where it gets really good. And I hope what you'll do is to find a couple ways to intersect one of the biggest ambitions that you've got. and that you'll take some steps. Landing the plane, if you've ever come on a commercial airliner, they'll come in over the numbers. And if you notice that they all kind of like hang about 10 feet over the runway, it's called the ground effect. And what happens is actually the wind comes off the wing, it hits the concrete, and it pushes up. And so what'll happen is you'll drift along about 10 feet off of your ambitions. You gotta get the wheels on the ground. That's landing the plane. What's an ambition you've had? I don't care if it's a day, a week, or your entire life. What can you do to land that plane? What are the limiting beliefs that have kept you away from doing that? I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, it'll never work, I'm not loved enough. Let's just figure out what those are so we can get that plane on the runway, because you are here, you are the 38th miracle. We've been talking about the previous 37. I think God wants to do something amazing through you. I don't know what that'll look like, but I'll tell you it'll look a lot like landing the plane. Moving from the bleachers to the field. To say, actually, I'm not the smartest guy, I'm not the wisest guy, but I'm me. And here I am, and I've got an ambition, and I'm gonna get after it. If you'll do that, things will start changing. One of the guys that became a friend of mine, he came to a Dream Big event that we had, and he's actually a pediatric brain surgeon. Is that a crazy cool job or what? Here's the problem. He didn't like being a pediatric brain surgeon. What he wanted to do is be a children's book author. But he felt so conflicted in that he has so much knowledge and it could do so much good, but he just wasn't inspired by that anymore. He wanted to take a break, go write kids' books. Do you know what he did? He quit his job. He walked in, he said, I'm out. He moved his family to Hawaii. Do you know what happened when he got to Hawaii? And he gave me permission to share this with you. He realized it was his marriage that was in trouble. It was his relationship with his kids that was in trouble. He wasn't off of being the pediatric brain. He just realized when he got to a different place, a different setting, he could look at his life for the first time and with clarity decide what was most important. You know what he did? He fixed his marriage. You know what he did? He reconciled with the kids. You know what he did? He landed the plane. He's a pediatric kids brain surgeon now, and he loves it. Some of the stuff that's keeping you away from your biggest ambition isn't the thing that you think is keeping you away. It's something else. Let's just go down and figure what that is out and then make some moves on it. It's going to happen with authenticity. Find your dream. Let somebody know what it is. I had a kid named Aaron working for me at this law firm. He'd worked for me for years. And I asked him, buddy, what's your ambition? You know what he said? I want to be a lawyer. That's awesome. Here's the problem. He didn't have like 200 grand to spend on law school tuition, and he didn't have 3 years. He had 3 kids and a wife. So do you know what we did? We went to the state bar and we said, I've been teaching at Pepperdine for a decade and I'm pretty good at it. Can we teach him law school ourselves? We'll make a law school, we'll have one student there, Aaron. And you know what? It was like I did the Jedi thing because they said yes. For the next 3 years, all the lawyers that work with me, we taught them law school. You know what? Aaron passed. We made him give the valedictorian speech. He was actually last in the class too. But here's the deal. He had an ambition. He let somebody know what his ambition is. We took a genuine interest in him. That's what it means to land the plane. Not just in your life, but help people land the planes in their lives. And you'll find the kind of fulfillment that you're really looking for. People don't need information. I've got all the information I need. If somebody tells me there's 3 words for love in Greek, agape, phileo, I'm gonna hurl. I don't need to hear that anymore. What I need is to hear your story about somebody who loved you selflessly. I'll remember that forever. Tell your stories. Actually, be part of that story for somebody. Show up for them, listening to what their ambition is, helping them land the plane. Another woman that came to Dream Big, her name was Grace, and you know what her ambition was? She wanted to be a speaker. But here's the deal. She'd never been up on a stage with all the cameras pointed at her. And she just had never had a shot. Well, I was going to be speaking to 3,000 people a couple days later. So guess what? I invited Grace. I didn't ask for permission. I walked out on stage holding hands with Grace. And when I got in front of all the cameras, I stepped out of the frame and I said, go. You guys, She killed it. They're never going to have me back. But you know what she does now? She goes around speaking to people. She had an ambition. She made it known. She had the opportunity put in front of her. She landed the plane. So I say to you this, what's your big ambition? And how can we get that thing out into the world? Let's go do this thing. And you're going to need to quit a couple things. Another friend of mine is actually runs $1 billion company. She left Dream Big. She got everybody together and she quit. She said, I'm done. Is that awesome? You don't have $1 billion company. I don't care if you have $10 in your pocket. What I want you to do is to know why you're doing what you're doing. Landing the plane means that. It's finding practices. It's going Grand Canyon with some routines and things in your life that you do weekly. For those of you that know me, you know I quit one thing every single Thursday. I actually had my moment at this law firm in Seattle. It was my law firm. I'd had this thing for 25 years. And I walked in to the conference room, got everybody together, and you know what I did? I quit. They said, how come? I'm like, it's Thursday. I quit stuff on Thursday. And I took the key off my ring and I gave it to a guy that'd been working for me for a decade. I said, it's all yours. You don't owe me anything. Now, you guys, that's a stupid economic decision, but it's an awesome new creation decision. Landing the plane means believing what Paul said. It's this, we are new creations. And if you keep doing all the old stuff you've been doing, you're not going to go Grand Canyon with that ambition. You're going to need to let go of a couple things to make a little bit of room for what's next. It would be like, remember a long time ago we talked about collecting those leaves? What if I collected so many leaves, there's no more room in the basket? I'd actually have found some neat opportunities that wouldn't fit. You gotta sometimes move some stuff out of your life so you can land the plane. And here's the last thing that I learned about landing the plane. When I was taking lessons to learn how to fly, what they do is they take you up real high and they practice when your engine shuts off. It's a little terrifying. What they tell you to do, because there's no warning when this happens, they could just like stop. And what you need to do is three things: pick, pitch, and point. I'll tell you what I mean. When everything stops, like it's just like not working, you've encountered a big setback, an ambition looks like it's not working, the first thing you need to do is pick where you're going to land this thing. And for us that believe in Jesus Christ, man, I'm just aiming for Jesus. I'm trying to get him in the window, continually aiming at him, making as many mid-course corrections, but decide in advance what you've picked. The second thing they teach you to do is to pitch. And a pitch is the attitude of the airplane. It's like either up or down. And when your engine stops, what you want to do is like pull back, right? Because Earth is not your friend, the whole gravity thing. But what you need to do is to pitch into it. Landing the plane means when there's a setback, to pitch into it, to lean forward. You've already picked where you're going to land. And the final thing is this: keep pointing at it. Fill the window with Jesus. Keep pointing at Jesus and surround yourself with a group of friends. You've developed a group of friends through this series that we've done. Man, you guys have gone deep with each other. Keep at it. I fly back and forth over the Midwest a lot. And when I look down at these beautiful cornfields, you'll see them run the tractors back and forth, and they have these discs behind them. You've seen those. And they go down about 18 inches, and they turn over all the soil. What forms 19 inches deep, it's called the plow pan. And it is as hard as concrete. It's the part that just never gets turned over. And what happens sometimes in our faith communities, we're talking about the top 18 inches. And what we need to do is get a little bit deeper than that. If you've seen a tractor, there's some that have these huge claws that are behind them. You know what those claws do? They bust through the plow pan. And what will happen is setbacks will bust through these plow pans. If you want your branches to go wide, you got to have roots that'll go deep. And that's what I hope have developed over this series of talks that we've had about what's an opportunity, what's an expectation, what's a setback, how do you take action. And we're at Land the Plane. Go deep. And that's where it gets good. You guys, we're rebuilding the lodge right now. We are close, but we are not done. You know what we just did? We picked marble. And if you've seen these big slabs of marble, they have these veins that make them really interesting. Here's the crazy part. I was talking to the marble guy, and he said, what makes the slab of marble most unique is also its weakest point. I'm like, that'll preach. Some of the things that's made you very unique are actually your weakest point. I'm actually a really enthusiastic guy, but some of that can become my weakest point. And what we've done over this series to talk about authentically where we can do the lifting from the knees, where we could say, I know where that's coming from. That's just little Bobby Goff being insecure right now. And if you can be authentic enough with the people around you, you know where this is coming from. It's all part of landing the plane. What I'm going to do is end with this last story. We have a mailman on our street. His name is Art. And actually, truth be known, he stinks as a mailman. He's a great guy, but he's just not a detail guy. He tosses the mail everywhere. And all the neighbors meet, in the middle of the street at 6 p.m. and we just sort it out ourselves. Well, we've been doing this parade on our block. We've been doing it for 25 years. I'm like older than dirt. And we decided that we were going to honor Art because he told us he was going to retire. So we said, thank goodness. And we said, Art, will you be the grand marshal of our parade? So we got a convertible. We got 1,000 envelopes in the back. We said, Art, just do what you do every day. Just throw them everywhere. Well, 800 people who'd been getting lousy mail service for 20 years showed up to let Art know he was just so beloved. Sure, he was a lousy mailman, but he was a great guy. He was so moved by this outpouring of love and affection. He felt so honored. He called me up the next day. He said, Bob, I'm coming out of retirement. I'm like, no! You guys, land the plane. Is everything going to work out the way you hoped? Heck no. Don't worry about it. You've got a beautiful ambition. You're going to try to wed that with an even more beautiful opportunity that comes your way. You're going to look at the limiting beliefs. What are the things, the lies that have been spoken over you that just weren't true anymore? You're going to, after doing that work, you're going to anticipate there'll be setbacks, but those aren't campsites. Those are you're actually your teachers. And you're going to sustain belief. You're going to keep your eyes fixed on Jesus and Jesus alone. Bust through the plow pan. You guys have been through enough. Let's let your roots grow deep, your branches grow wide. And as Jesus said when he was talking about mustard seeds, give people rest. So you guys, you did it. You made it to the end. Landing the plane means finding an ambition, doing it in a group of people like you have, and then launching this thing into the world, seeing what happens to it. And I'm telling you, heaven is leaning over the rails. The promise of Scripture is this, that there's you looking out, but there's a great cloud of witnesses looking towards. Man, live into that with confidence. Keep your eyes fixed on Jesus. So long.
Wow. He never disappoints. And like I said, this has been such an amazing walk over the last 5 weeks. And I hope you have truly enjoyed it and that you've been blessed by it. And we hope to have more of these in the near future. So thank you so much for tuning in. And before we say farewell to this session, I want to leave you with a couple of discussion points as we do each week that you can look at yourself and we can look at ourselves and see exactly what landing the plane means to us. First question would be, what are you most tempted to do to avoid landing your plane? More research, more conversations with others, more planning and preparation? What would it be? What are you most tempted to do to keep from landing it? Next question. What has prevented you from taking actions on your ambitions up until now? How have they impeded your progress or blocked your path? How have you overcome them? Or have you overcome them? And then, how have your fears, both fear of success as well as fear of failure, colored your willingness to take concrete steps for big dream activation? How can you acknowledge your fears but still take action and do what needs to be done to get started? These are great questions. Again, as I said, there is so much to this. Creating action plans. This book is so full of so many different things. Like I said, I recommend, you get it. You can go to Amazon and find this. And it's such an amazing path that we've all walked down the last 5 weeks. And I'm so blessed that the Lord laid this on my heart and to present it to you. So I hope it's truly been a blessing. I'll always remember, when I first went into the military, the first big leap, my ambition was to go into the military. My dream was to be into the military. But my first overthink and reconsideration process actually started right outside the recruiting office. Because I had the information I needed. I watched the videos. If any of you, almost every veteran has been to a recruiting office and watched videos, and it's kind of like watching your favorite action movie where you always say, I want to be Sean Connery, or I want to be Clint Eastwood, or I want to be John Wayne, or, I want to be this superhero. Thing is, with the military, when you raise that right hand, you can live that ambition out. Sometimes it may not always go the route that you initially thought it was going to go. But the majority of the military, what you do, what you accomplish, what you become, is about 85% up to you. The other 15% lies in the hands of your superiors, your commanders, your first sergeants, your military boards, your health, your physical fitness status. So 15% of that decision is wrapped up into somebody else helping you make it. When it comes to the gospel and what God lays on your heart and what He has for you to do as a child of God, to take the gospel to others, to present it, that is 100% your call. It's 100% funded by God. It's taught by God. It's inspired by God. It's instructed by God. The 100% is you landing the plane and getting out right there on the runway and say, okay, Lord, here I am. As a Christian, I oftentimes am guilty of overthinking things. Doing these videos, I come in here, I sit down in the studio, and I'm like, okay, do I move the mouse this way? Do I time this? Do I do this? Am I going to present this? Do I transition to this? And, what happens if I get to this? And I just constantly overthink it. God says, sit down, take a breath, and let me lead. I got this. I helped you take off in the plane. I helped you navigate. Now I'm going to help you land it. And we're going to get out and you're going to do what it is I called you to do. And I'm going to be right there with you. You're not doing this by yourself. So always keep that in mind. God, I mentioned something in teaching Sunday school here a couple of weeks ago. You ever see the license plate? God is my co-pilot. Have you ever been behind some of these people? God needs to be over in that driver's seat. And as Christians, we forget that. Oftentimes we get so wrapped up in what it is we want to do and how we want to do it. And, the calling that God's got, that we push him over into the co-pilot's seat and we try to take over the controls. And it's a bumpy ride. I can tell you. I pushed him as far back as tail gunner before in my life. Hey God, just cover all my mistakes back there because I'm making them 100 miles an hour up here. It's when we give in and totally surrender to letting him sit in the navigation seat that he says, look, I have plans for you to prosper. God never called you into defeat. He never called you into failure. He called you to present him to the world. Just like a business owner. When I hire someone, I want them to have the best training. I don't want to set them up for failure, because when I set them up for failure, my company fails. So I want to ensure they have everything they need and that I'm there, or a member of my team is there in case they need help to navigate something. God is there for us all the time. But it's 100% up to us whether we call on him or not. Whether we choose to say, Lord, lead the way. I'm relying 100% on you. The pride's gone. The self-ability to win is gone. I want it to be all about you. And at that very point, you will realize the thing that you fretted the most, that you overthought, that you overworried about, becomes more simplified when it's in God's hands. And that's where it should have been the whole time. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. And I hope you have a wonderful Monday. And again, like I said, I hope here soon that in the next couple of weeks, I will put together another series for us. I'm actually looking at a couple, praying over them, and seeing where the Lord wants me to go with it. So thank you so much for tuning in, and share this with someone. If you really enjoyed it, if you were blessed by it, share it with someone and let them receive that same blessing. And until we see each other again, this is your host, Randy Jones, for Soldiers for the Cross. God bless you and have an amazing day. Bye-bye.